Hello everyone, I'm here to talk about a pretty cool, interesting product that I picked up off eBay to add to my gaming collection, which would be the Super Game Boy controller for the Super Nintendo. I bought this off eBay. I want to say I paid like around 90 something, almost $100 for it. Shipped from Japan, which surprisingly only took, I think, 5 days to come in, if that. I was very shocked at how fast the shipping was on this, but I'm definitely really glad to have it. I already took the controller out of the box. Unfortunately, I can't get the instructions out because the instructions are stuck under this. Careful with the box. Are stuck under that flap that has that hole in it that stores could hang the boxes from. Unfortunately, they're stuck under that, and I've tried opening up this side, but I'm scared of tearing it. So I'm just going to leave them in the box. So, because this is the first Japanese product I've ever owned for my gaming collection. So, I'm excited about that. But it's all in Japanese. Definitely screams 90s, especially with the colors here. Like, it's cool to have, but it's not like the prettiest box. But it's neat. You got your Game Boy player. You got the Japanese version of the Super Game Boy player there, which is pretty cool. You got the back of the controller here, all your buttons and modes. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And right here is the controller, which the seller said may or may not work. So we will find out here in a little bit if this thing works or not. Since it was new old stock, they said it wasn't tested. So, see what happens. So yeah, right here. First off, I love the design of this. I love how it looks like an original Game Boy. I like how they got the little notch here. I love the color scheming. The buttons are, to my knowledge, extremely accurate to the original Game Boys. I know the buttons are kind of like a darkish purple plum color, I guess. Like a lighter plum color. But yeah, all the same colors. You got your D-pad, start, select. I want to say this is like a turbo switch, but it actually says SGB and SFC. So I'm not 100% sure what that does, but I'll find out in a bit. Your BA, and then you have your mode, your speed, color, and window. Because the Game Boy player, which I also picked up on eBay when I bought this, has you can change like the borders, and I think you can even do some like editing and some other cool stuff with it. Nintendo back then, they just knew how to make some awesome software. I mean, like Super Mario Paint. This apparently has some really cool software, and just a lot of other stuff I've seen Nintendo do. I think even like the Famicom disk drive had some cool looking OS. With like Mario and Luigi with the loading screen and stuff like that. From what I've seen in videos, I don't own one, but from what I've seen. Yeah, Nintendo used to make some really cool software. Now I just feel like their software is it's boring. Like the Switch OS is not interesting. It's pretty boring. So I kind of wish Nintendo would go back to more of the wackiness. But, whatever. But yeah, picked this up too. I paid about $92 for the Game Boy player with Pokemon Yellow, which this will be my second Pokemon game I've ever played. The only other one I ever played was Pokemon Y on the Nintendo 3DS. And also I did play Pokemon Stadium when I was a kid in 64. My brother had that game. But yeah, I've never been huge into Pokemon, mostly because I'm not big into turn-based RPGs. The only other turn-based RPG I ever got hooked on was Three Houses. And it's mostly because they talked. I have bad vision, so it's hard for me to read all that text through the game, so it honestly just kind of makes it miserable for me to play. So thankfully Three Houses had audio dialogue, and I could enjoy the game, and it was a blast. I wish more games would do that. These are more limited in text, so we'll see what happens. But I'm pretty happy to have that. That's a pretty cool game to own. Some of the games I got was Super Mario Land 1, 2, and 3 Wario's Land, which, again, original Game Boy cartridges. Never owned an original Game Boy. I had a Game Boy SP as a kid. My parents got that for my birthday one year. But I never had an original. So these are my first original Game Boy games I've ever owned. These two are the only ones I've actually ever played off of the Nintendo 3DS emulation thing that Nintendo had. So I played these before and they were great games. Can't wait to play them again, especially with the Super Game Boy. I don't know, I'm playing with that. Super Game Boy enhancements that it offers. Wario Land, I'm really excited to play. That looks like a really fun game. So yeah, pretty excited. Jumping into the original Game Boy library thanks to this guy. Oops. So I'm gonna go and get my Super Nintendo hooked up, and we'll see if this guy still works. Alrighty, I got the Super Game Boy and the Super Game Boy Hori controller all plugged in to my Super Analog. One thing I do want to show you guys real quick, if you are using the Super Game Boy on the Super Analog and you're not getting audio, this is the problem to it. So up here in your menu, you want to go down to settings. And thankfully the controller is working, so that's great. So it actually does work. So new old stock, Super Game Boy controller working. You want to go to audio. You want to go to cartridge audio enabler. You want to enable that. See how it's checked right there? All right, once that's done, just log back out to your main menu. And let's go up to run cartridge. Wait for it to load. And there we go. It works. And I died from the first Goomba. Oop, hitting the wrong buttons. But yep, it works. It's not a bad feeling controller. Buttons are not bad. It's a little mushy in my opinion, but not bad. It's a third party. The D-pad's not bad either. It's okay. So, it's a pretty cool accessory to own for your Super Nintendo. So, or if you're just a retro collector, I do recommend picking up this controller, especially if you can find it new in the box. That'd be, pretty awesome. These are fairly expensive, even separate. Like they're like $60, $80 sometimes separate. So that's why I jumped when I saw one, in a box. I jumped on it for $90. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and you all have a awesome day.